So, Brandon, it's the same kind of question we were asking about Parker Retzlaff here just a couple of weeks ago. But Corey Heim's coming under some criticism here. I think, probably Toyota executives not too happy with his decision. Chandler Smith not too happy with his decision there in the closing laps. Is that criticism fair, or do you think that falls into the trap of team orders and Corey Heim's trying to win a race just as much as anybody else is?
Yeah, I think Corey just wanted a fair shot just like the rest of them. You're exactly right. It goes right back to Daytona and Parker Retzlaff. Like Corey Heim and Chandler Smith, they're not they're not first-hand teammates. They're second-hand teammates. They've got the factory connection to worry about, and of course they probably have hundreds of different types of phone calls from Toyota, from their own team, all telling them different things, and you probably get in situations like this. I'm sure they get praised from one call and then bashed on from another, because everyone has different expectations probably of what they want them to do in that sort of scenario. But as a driver, they just want to win, and so in that split second moment, that's what Corey Heim saw to be the best decision for him. And he can get out of the car and look at the tape like everyone else in hindsight and think, well, yeah, maybe I should have went with Chandler there.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate because obviously, I mean, we've talked, for the last 3 years now on this show, even when Corey Heim was still running part-time for Kyle Busch's truck team, and then what he's done the last couple of years with Tricon being one of, if not the favorite to win the Truck Series title. There's obviously no denying his talent, and I think Toyota certainly knows that. But again, you keep hearing these conversations come up, and I hate it. I understand coming from Toyota's perspective that in a perfect world they would want their cars working together, but I think it would be a real shame if if what happened this weekend affects whatever path Corey's going to be on here. Because again, the talent that he's showing in the Truck Series, I would hate for him to be a truck lifer, if you know what I mean. I think he has the talent that would leave him capable of, I mean, clearly you saw it in Xfinity this weekend. He could move up to Xfinity next year, have a great season, maybe be a championship contender. And then, we talk all the time about Toyota having all those great development drivers and not enough seats at the Cup Series level. I don't know when one of those seats might open up, but I think his name would have to be on the short list. So I think that if Toyota looks at this and, doesn't look upon Corey Heim favorably enough to be able to back him for those opportunities in the future, it's the same exact deal with Parker Retzlaff a couple of weeks ago. I don't think that this should be something. I understand from the manufacturer's perspective not being happy, but if this is something that affects any future opportunities he might have, or forces him to maybe look at a different manufacturer for those opportunities, I think it will be a real shame to single out one race or one move that he made or didn't make in the closing laps of a super speedway race and say, you didn't work with your teammates, so we're not going to work with you anymore. I would hate to see them go down that path.
Yeah, that's really frustrating. That's got to be frustrating for a driver to have to play that juggling match every time they go somewhere like this, where you have to try to. I mean, you kind of put in a box where you kind of have to try to please all of your backers around you, or you're always going to leave someone upset. But I guess you have to kind of weigh your options of, okay, who do I want to leave more upset, or what is it going to cost more if Toyota's more upset than Sam Hunt Racing? Like where what's going to keep your in the surviving world, what's going to keep your game going longer into the future as far as your career. And yeah, keeping Corey Heim from being a truck lifer, because his talent level, we've seen it, is Heim time many a night. He's worth much more than that.
Yeah, I remember in 2011 when tandem drafting was first starting to take off in the Cup Series, and just off the top of my head, I remember AJ Allmendinger was working a lot with Mark Martin. I think Mark had. You remember when guys were able to talk to each other on the radio? That only lasted for that year, I think. But he had like his 300 teammates, and Allmendinger was one of the guys that he had on the radio to be able to communicate with, because they liked working with each other in a tandem draft. I remember Kurt Busch in a Dodge for Penske at the time, and Regan Smith in the Furniture Row car worked quite well together. And Tony Stewart and David Gilliland, I think, were another pair. And Stewart obviously was driving his own car. Gilliland was with Front Row Motorsports. But then I think we got to the summer Daytona race for the fall Talladega race, and Stewart basically came out and said, well, look, I think Ford wants their drivers to only work with each other here. And that was like even hearing that as a kid who had just turned 12, it was like, well, that seems kind of lame, right? Like, shouldn't drivers be allowed to, work with whoever gives them the best chance to perform? But I don't know. I mean, that's the first time that I can remember hearing, those manufacturer orders coming in here, and I guess that those bonds have only continued to grow in strength in terms of the executives wanting to see their cars give each other the best chance to win rather than the drivers acting as individuals. And I think that's unfortunate because Parker Retzlaff had a great run, and unfortunately kind of got overshadowed by, well, you didn't help this guy who's not even technically your teammate clinch a playoff spot, and you helped somebody else do exactly that. And here's some criticism for what you didn't do. Not what you did do with an impressive top 10 in your second ever Cup start. I think that's just a shame.
Yeah, feels like the only people that really want the drivers to work with their manufacturers is the suits from the manufacturers that are invested in it with their money. I mean, the fan, the driver, they want to see you do whatever they want drivers to be selfish, when they're out there, or maybe at least, a feel good story where you work with your teammate and get them the win, or, if it benefits them, maybe some of that sort of help. But yeah, the manufacturer stuff, I mean, unless you're like a diehard Ford fan, and I don't, that happens more in sports car racing, right? That's not really what NASCAR is all about, where it's like, oh, you can go to IMSA and I'm a Lexus fan. I only, if the Lexus cars are out, I stop watching. I don't know anyone that's like, if all the Fords are out for the count, I stop watching. Like, it's only the ones with the money behind it that actually care about the manufacturer alliance.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it just the whole team orders idea. What we see in Formula One with Ferrari swapping their cars on the line with Schumacher and Barrichello. I think that's just not that not working with your teammate or working with a teammate at the super speedway is nearly as egregious as that. But I think that just the phrase team orders in NASCAR, is a really rotten one that fans don't like to hear. So this is related to that in many respects. I feel like with manufacturers coming down and imposing that on their teams, I'm not a fan of it. I wish drivers could have a little bit more freedom to make the decisions that they think are in their best interest. But what we've seen now with Corey Heim and Parker Retzlaff the last couple of weeks, and those are two guys that have their whole careers ahead of them. They're trying to work their way up the ladder. I would absolutely hate if they lose any sort of opportunity or deal because of that. But we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
It's a necessary evil. As someone who is for NASCAR's success, we've got to keep manufacturers happy too.